in your mind, how do you consider that an idea for a startup is good, it's backable, it's worth building?
I wish there was a exact framework, but if you really want to kind of think about how an entrepreneur should evaluate an idea, it's probably a cliche, but ultimately, pretty much everybody says, does it solve a real problem? And if
Yeah.
you can spot a problem and you can create a solution around it, then you can be pretty certain that somebody is willing to pay for it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, business is about bottom line, right?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Ambition Circuit. Today, I'm joined by my guest, Mr. Ashish Saboo. I'm very thankful to have him here and very blessed to have his time. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Mr. Saboo, to give a brief overview of you and your career history for me and my viewers.
Thanks, Vedansh. First of all, thank you for inviting me and congratulations for this podcast initiative you are doing. Great effort. Happy to be here.
Thank
Just
you.
a
Thank
brief
you.
background. Uh, I am founder and CEO of Startup Steroid. It's a deal flow platform for connecting founders with investors. It takes the
Mhm.
whole process of taking your deals, exposing it to investors, getting investor interest, doing due diligence, the whole 9 yards, and ultimately investing into a startup and also managing your portfolio. I also manage BPO, a business process outsourcing unit called Tech Synergy, and that's where we help med legal companies with all of their workers comp evaluation process, the back end process, be it the call center, calling the applicants, scheduling them, doing the medical billing, coding, so on and so forth. In terms
Mhm.
of the other background, I live in Irvine, went to USC and UCLA for my MBA and masters in industrial engineering, and been involved with TIE for past dozen years or so. I was the immediate past president. Got to know your dad there, who was the president before me. So, and he's also a co-founder here with me in Startup Steroid. And we'll talk more about it, but I'll let you fire away. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome. And thank you for being here once again. So, in your background, you talked about having a huge range, running all the way from back end of legal businesses to, the whole startup infrastructure. And so, considering the huge range, in your mind, how do you consider that an idea for a startup is good, it's backable, it's worth building?
Great question, Vedansh. I wish there was a exact framework. Some of that is, I think, fortuitous or serendipity, if you would. I was in the right place at the right time. Some of it was well thought out. But if you really want to kind of think about how an entrepreneur or somebody who is starting out should evaluate the idea, then really, and it's probably a cliche, but ultimately, pretty much everybody says, does it solve a real problem? And if
Yeah.
you can spot a problem and you can create a solution around it, then you can be pretty certain that somebody is willing to pay for it. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, business is about bottom line, right? You can build
Of course.
great business, you can build great platforms, you can have thousands of people using it. But if they are not willing to pay for it, then there is a problem, right? Because you cannot run a charity. Ultimately, it's a business. So there has to be a real problem, real issue which you are trying to solve. And you don't have to be first to the market. And it's not like, oh, somebody else is doing it, I shouldn't be doing it because there is
Yeah.
somebody already out there. You can have a different approach. You can have a different, IP maybe. You might have a different algorithm which might solve the same problem, but much more efficiently, or you might be the cheapest. Like when I started my BPO way back in around 2003, 2004 timeframe, there were
Mhm.
literally thousands of BPOs out there. So I wasn't like the first one and I hadn't really thought about it. But it was like, hey, there are 1,000 businesses. I can be 1,001. If thousands are making money, why cannot I also make money if I can,
Yeah.
do it right and do it efficiently? So that idea, I mean, and that might be a little different between a traditional business versus a startup. And when you are looking at a startup culture, you are looking at doing the next big thing, or world changing idea, or becoming unicorn or something. This other idea which I had, BPO, it was like running a pure old business, a boring business maybe, but a money making business at the end of the
Of
day.
course. Of
That's
course.
all it was. So how I could figure out, oh, there is some efficiency I can still gain by doing some operations differently. I can go to low cost country like India and Philippines, set up the same thing but at lower cost. And with my connections here, I was able to get some immediate clients. So it really depends, at almost every time. It doesn't have to be totally new idea. So you just need to look for that kind of fit. And of course there has to be some kind of market timing. Your idea has to be right. Even for the BPOs to work, the biggest thing you needed was like the internet connectivity, because
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
ultimately, I mean, this is kind of work from home or work from away before the pandemic time frame, right?
Era. Yeah.
So internet had to be good, and I did initially struggle with internet in India also in some places, and we had to go for lease line versus at that time it used to be called T1 and DSL and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there were some issues like that, but yeah, the biggest thing is you have to be solving a real problem. And or it has to be something which you can improve on, iterate on, and do it better than the others who are already doing. And ultimately there are other things like unit economics and scalability and things like that. But yeah, uh, if you're solving a problem and somebody is willing to
Mhm.
pay for it, then I feel like it's worth doing it.
It's a good idea. Yeah. Which is cool because, a lot of the times when I've talked to people, or at least what I've heard from the media and whatnot, is that a business idea should be unique. It should be a unicorn, not that it's something that you can be the 1,001 person to do it and still make a good profit. So it's
Yeah,
cool
I
that
mean,
you take
see,
it that way.
in a way, if you go out and sometimes even for a startup, you are trying to raise money. Sometimes the investors look at it and say, "Oh, it's great that there are a couple other companies already in the market," which means that the idea is validated. There is a market out there instead of
Yeah.
something totally unique. So it's kind of counterintuitive in a sense that, oh, go out and create the next Google. Now, not everybody can create the next Google. I mean, Google comes once in a generation kind of thing. So you
Oh yeah,
always
of
don't
course.
have to really invent something totally new. But if you can iterate, create something better, create something more efficient, something more cost effective, it's worth pursuing.
Oh yeah. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Knowing that now you're very business minded, obviously after years of experience, what made you shift into business after having your educational background come from engineering? Why the change?
So I think I had the entrepreneurship bug in my genes, I guess. I mean, we are from the community, the Banya community, as they call it in India,
Yeah.
which is pretty much business oriented. I mean, if I look at my family, my dad, I mean, he did his own business. I've four brothers. Everybody is into their own business with their initial jobs. And when I also came to US, I mean, at that time I did not think I will do a business, but very soon I realized that road to financial freedom and stability is really being an entrepreneur. You have
Yeah.
to control your own destiny if you want to really succeed, and you have to have more people working for you if you want to make more money. It's as simple as that. Obviously, you need to be able to find opportunities. A lot of people think about it. I was fortunate enough to be able to spot a couple of opportunities, and I had some way of being able to do it without taking a lot of risk. So I was able
Yeah.
to parlay my full-time job into a part-time job and start doing something on the side, see if the idea works or not, and then slowly shift into it. So it wasn't like I was giving up a big opportunity cost, because that's what generally happens when you are in a job. You are making 200, 300, $400,000 a year, whatever. It's very comfortable. So to give
Yeah.
up that job and then jump into an entrepreneurship can be pretty challenging, and at the same time it is a lot of risk, and you don't know whether you are going to succeed or not. So a lot of people, that's why, don't take that chance. So I was fortunate enough to be able to do that and do it successfully. If you ask me now, would I do it again, I would say I would do it in a heartbeat. Ultimately, entrepreneurship is not for everybody also. There are a lot of people who are just happy doing their corporate jobs, going through corporate ladder. Even my contemporaries, some of them have gone on to become CXOs of various companies. They are probably
Yeah.
making more than me in terms of their stock options and things like that. So
Mhm.
everybody has their own journey. But for me, really, it was about being able to control your own destiny and being able to control your own timeline and timetable. And I'm happy I did it.
Awesome. And that's cool looking at, everything considered besides the number that comes on the pay stub, but also how much time and freedom you have on your own. That's a awesome
That
mindset.
is, I think, money can buy everything except time,
Except
I
time.
think.
Yeah, yeah. I
And
agree.
time is a very rare commodity. And I'm happy that I'm able to pursue a lot of things outside of my business and, entrepreneurship thing, because I've been able to free up that time. Yeah, I mean, you give some, you take some. I mean, I freed up
Yeah,
some
yeah.
time. Maybe if I were working in a corporate, I might have been up there in the ladder, but then would I want to be in that kind of race or not? So that's a personal choice for a lot of people. And I would
Oh yeah.
really have the time to be able to pursue other things beside, entrepreneurship, or just beside the business.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. And I love that for you. So now, with Startup Steroid being one of your more recent endeavors, you've seen a lot of what early stage investing looks like. And so how do you think that's going to change over the years? And how do you think young people such as, Gen Zers like myself can get involved in that?
Fantastic question. And I think there is already a big wave of what we call, democratization of angel investing. So with
Hmm.
our platform, or platform like Angel List and other, platforms, even like Kickstarter, for example, the barrier to entry into angel investing or early stage investing is already being lowered. Earlier you needed to come to the table with at least like $100,000 check or something before you can
Yeah.
sit with a founder and get some equity into it. Now with a platform like ours, you are able to pitch in at 5,000, $10,000, or with Kickstarters even you can put in 10, 20, $50 towards a new and upcoming product or a company. So it has really changed the dynamics a lot, with
Yeah.
syndication, with SPV, with rolling funds. The I think more and more people will get involved. In the future, I can see that even the money managers, the portfolio managers, would start saying, hey, 10% of your money should be in stocks, in bonds, in mutual funds, and in startups. Why not?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a way of diversification as well, because now you can actually access it. Earlier you are not able to do that. So with the internet, with the platform like ours and other platforms, crowdfunding platforms, it has become a lot easier. A lot of angel groups are starting out from colleges now. They are scouting companies from colleges and
Yeah.
high schools even. So that is also changing how Gen Z is getting involved. And I think the best way for some of the younger people like you to get involved is maybe seek an internship or become a scout for some of these like Lightspeed Ventures, for example. They have these kinds of
Yeah.
programs, so you can get used to. The other thing is you might not have capital to invest, but you definitely have your time and your abilities, so you can be working for some of
Definitely.
the
Yeah.
startups or for these angel groups on a voluntary basis. Learn the ropes, also
Hmm.
attend pitch sessions. I mean, there are so many pitch events happening pretty much every day across the geography now. You sit down in those pitch events, see what kind of ideas the companies are pitching, what the investors are saying, and you will learn so much from that already. Shark
Hmm.
Tank. I mean, Shark Tank is literally happening everywhere these days.
Everywhere now. Yeah.
Each and every college, you just need to go and look for events in your city or in your neighborhood, and you will find a pitch event happening every other week.
Hmm.
So I think that would be the best way to really get involved.
Awesome. But then, how does that change how does that contribute to the evolution of the market? Because now if people can use, such kind of platforms and put even 10, 50, $100 into startups, so many different startups are getting, funding from so many different parties. So doesn't that create kind of some kind of an oversaturation in the market of what a good startup is versus what a not so good startup is?
For sure. So that's where really your investor mindset comes in, because obviously it's all about supply and demand. And earlier, because the money was so tight, the startups were also limited. And
Yeah.
now that there is more money out there and more awareness, and also more programs in high schools and colleges about startups. There is a business plan competition being run by pretty much each college these days, and we
Oh
are
yeah,
involved
yeah,
with TIE, and TIE has like this TIE high school and TIE university, and both are huge business plan competitions run across the world. So there are a lot of startups coming, and you are right in a sense that there might be some good startups, there might be some bad startups. So that's why I suggest that first you learn by attending those pitch
hmm,
events, by being a scout or being an analyst for some of these investor groups before you start putting your own money.
yeah,
Ultimately, in very early stage startups, people say, one out of every 10 or 20 startups is the only one which is going to succeed. So they say this term called spray and pray. Basically, you spray
yeah,
money in 10 or 20, one will
and
give you
hopefully one will
20x,
give
the
you a
others
return.
will crash and burn. So
Oh yeah,
to
yeah,
minimize that, all you can do is do more due diligence, be more aware about the company, ask questions,
yeah.
work
Do
with
your
other
homework.
savvy investors to kind of minimize that risk. Ultimately, no risk, no gain. So you will have to take some risk, but you can
Of
minimize
course,
it
of
this
course.
way. Now, with AI tools and a lot of other tools available, they can also help you with AI based due diligence. So very quickly you can screen some companies. Even Startup Steroid came up with a product called Ready Score. So we are able to give founders, hey, based on your pitch deck and based on your financials, how ready you are, and we can create even an investor memo around it. So
Hmm.
similar tools can be used by investors to do their basic due diligence. And ultimately, you have to really, I mean, if you look at when some of these angel groups invest, including ours, we do a very deep due diligence with the company before we invest in it to try
Yeah,
and minimize the risk. Ultimately, you cannot see in the crystal ball what will happen 3 years later. There is no guarantee.
definitely.
Even
Yeah,
some big companies which are publicly traded go bankrupt. So you can only try by doing a lot of these things early on to minimize the risk. But yeah, be careful and only put aside the money in angel investing which you can afford to lose. So don't put
yeah.
your college savings in there, or money which
Of
you would
course.
need to pay for your food. Yeah, if it's
Yeah.
some money which you can kind of almost gamble away, then do it. It's not exactly gamble, it's more educated gamble, but still there is a risk aspect to it.
There's a high risk. Yeah,
Of
definitely.
course, yeah.
So, you know, considering you've talked about starting companies as early as the early 2000s, what was your biggest personal growth moments that you've experienced as a founder?
Wow, that's a loaded question. I need to think about it. Yeah, multiple things I would say. And you don't realize it. People think, oh, you're an entrepreneur now. You control, as I was saying, your own time and destiny and things like that. But
Yeah.
you don't realize that now you don't have a clock in and clock out. Once you
Hmm.
own a business or you're an entrepreneur, you are on 24/7.
Oh
So
yeah.
you don't have a shut off switch, which sometimes it's good, but over a long time it can be pretty bad if you can't really control it, because then
Yeah,
you're
you
always
lose the
thinking
balance.
about the business, you're always responding to the emails, always
Hmm.
taking care of fires, talking to people, things like that. So that was one thing, trying to just balance my life around the whole time zone, especially because I was working with Philippines and India and US, so it was almost a 24-hour kind of clock.
Oh
So
wow.
that was
Yeah.
one. The other thing really was just being able to manage a lot of people across geography. So I had to develop, the people skills, a little bit of, I would say, cultural sensitivity in terms of
Yeah.
how you talk to people in Philippines versus how you talk to people in India versus how you behave with people here. It's nuanced, but it is different. I mean, even sometimes I was surprised. One of the managers in Philippines told me after my first visit, he's like, "Sir, can you talk a little bit more softly?" And I'm like, "This is my soft tone." And he's like, "No, it feels like some of those people feel like you are really, scolding them when you are talking to them because your pitch." And I am a naturally loud person, so I'm like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
I'll keep that in mind. So those kinds of nuances. But overall, I think I definitely had a lot of personal growth in terms of being able to work with larger teams, being able to manage them. And the most satisfying part was being able to afford employment to over 400 people across geographies. So
Oh
as
yeah,
an
yeah.
entrepreneur, that is very fulfilling, that you are not only being able to do it for yourself, but you are able to generate employment for so many people and
So many
be a
people.
source
Yeah.
of, directly or indirectly, a source of their livelihood as well.
So if you had to start over fresh, you're 22 years old in modern times, with your current knowledge, what would you start? Where would you start? What would you build? What would you do?
Wow, interesting. So, I mean, knowing what we know today and knowing where AI is going and where things are heading, it definitely has to do something with technology. I mean, my
Yeah.
initial business, it was a BPO, but it was called ITES. So, what it means was information technology enabled services. So, you are
Oh,
using IT to enable a service remotely, right? You are using computers, you are using the internet and things like that to do a service. So
yeah.
really, I would think deep and hard into how we can leverage AI and automation and things like that to solve the next problem. To give you an example, we already talked about like Startup Steroid, the platform we are still building and continue to build. So we are putting AI tools for due diligence, for example, now for giving founders a ready score and things like that. So that is something we are already doing in terms of our current project. If I were to build a whole new company, then it has to be around something which I can do with AI. Maybe some AI enabled service which might help students connect with internship opportunities better, or student connects with mentors better. That can be one thing. I don't know if there are services out there or not, but that would be one. The another thing could be some kind of healthcare for adults,
Yeah.
especially in a country like India, where the aging population, they project in another 20 years, our aging population will hit 60 plus, will hit a much higher number than the youth. So it will become a big issue for healthcare. So if there
Hmm.
is a way to use some AI tools and some automation tools to provide that elderly care for people whose children are away, then that would be another service I can think of. And now that you have kind of me in thinking more, I'll definitely think more and come back to you. Interesting question.
Thank you. Thank you. So, then if I have to take three takeaways from our conversation today, it would be that one, if now is the time to hop onto the AI train, maybe the best time was a couple of years ago, but second best time is now. Number two would be, as a young person, you should always be giving one thing towards your investments, either your capital, your time, or your skills. So
Mhm.
volunteer somewhere if you can't put money somewhere, or if you don't have the time to volunteer, then spare a little bit of cash, but always make sure you're investing. And number three is that the only way you can truly get your own freedom is by sacrificing a little bit, going into discomfort mode, but starting your own thing and being your own boss.
You summed it up well. Yeah, I definitely agree. Again, I would say, entrepreneurship is not for everybody, but if you can afford to take that plunge and take that risk, then it
Mhm.
can be very, very rewarding and very satisfying in the long run. But yeah, there is no pain, no gain, no pain kind of thing. So you have to
Yeah, yeah.
undergo a little bit of pain to get there. But yeah, definitely. Anything else we can do?
Nope, that about sums it up. So, with that being said, thank you guys all for watching another episode of the Ambition Circuit. And thank you so much, Mr. Sabu, for joining us today and giving us your time.
Thank you, Vedansh. It has been great talking to you. All the best for your podcast and all the best for your upcoming undergrad school. Take care.
Thank you. Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.